Welcome to another edition of our on-air series here on the Citi Business Festival 2026. The Citi Business Festival is brought to you by Citi FM and Channel 1 in partnership with ABSA Bank and is sponsored by ABSA, MTN, Petra Trust, and of course Zonda Tech. This week we're focused on personal finance, savings and investment. And today we're talking about debt management, loans, credit, interest rates, the whole raft of things. We have a very interesting guest. When we come back, we'll tell you who he is. Stay with us.
You need a bigger space to grow your business. You need to be ready for any season.
You need faster checkouts for these busy days.
You need more equipment to meet demand.
You need to make sure everyone gets paid on time.
In business, you need advice, solutions, and sector expertise when it matters.
Your new office space looks great. What's next?
We get it. ABSA Business Banking.
Welcome back. So the on-air series for the Citi Business Festival is in its third week, and this week is on personal finance. How do you make sure your personal finance is working well? My topic today is debt management and all the things surrounding it. My guest is the head of debt and working capital, business banking, ABSA, Benjamin Asante Asamoah. Ben, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Bernard. It's a privilege to be here.
Very interesting job title, head of debt and working capital for business banking. Can you explain what that means and what you do?
Okay, sure. So, I mean, usually when people hear my title, they think I'm a debt collector. You know, you go collecting money. But in short, when somebody, a business approaches a bank and says, I want financing, somebody needs to receive the documentation. Somebody needs to assess the client's borrowing costs or borrowing need, make a determination whether, based on the information available, this is a transaction we want to do or not. So basically that's my job. I lead a team that's responsible for ensuring that we can clearly assess a transaction we originate and confirm or recommend whether this is a transaction we want to do as a bank or not.
And this is within the business banking side?
Yes.
As against what other banking?
So there's corporate banking.
Okay.
So there's business banking and there's corporate banking. Yeah.
What's the difference?
So there are two kinds of clients.
Okay.
Usually, as a bank, we would rank them from a size or turnover standpoint, right? So business banking is your mid-sized business. So SME, small, medium enterprises, that sits within medium business banking, and anybody above that, large corporates, big corporates, that sits in corporate.
I see. So what is debt?
Okay, so debt is, in short, any money you raise outside your own resources from external people to support any project that you want to run. In simple terms, really, that's what.
So that's from the perspective of if I'm starting a project and I have my own money, I don't need debt. But if I need somebody's money to help me, that's debt.
Yes.
What's the difference between debt and equity?
Okay, so just to the example you gave, if you have your own money, you want to build a house.
Yeah.
You've saved over years. You've probably raised 70% of the money from your own savings, but you can't complete it. You have a 30% gap that you need to close up. The 70% you've saved over the period is your own equity, right? The 30% that you need somebody to support you is debt. So that's really the difference.
And then it could also mean that if somebody wanted to support my project and they give me money, if that money translates into ownership of the company and I don't need to pay back, that's also equity, right?
That's equity. That's equity. But again, remember, at that point in time, the person from whom, or the entity from whom you have received the money, is equally, so to say, a part owner of your business. The difference between that and debt is that debt, when you take debt, the entity that gave you the debt is not a part owner, does not have any, call it, access or hold of the business. They are just a third party. But anybody who you raise money from then becomes, as equity, then becomes a part owner of the business.
So why is debt so controversial? Is this such a bad thing? Because, like, sometimes when they even do MPLs, they say whatever. It sounds like some very bad thing. So why is debt such a controversial issue generally?
I think there are different perceptions about debt. Some think that as long as you take debt, you're a slave. There's all of that. But debt can be good, and debt certainly can be bad. It depends on what you're using it for. And if you took money for something or for a purpose that did not generate any return, it's probably just for lifestyle. It probably is bad debt. But if you took debt if you took money for a project that helps you to expand the business, helps you to get a house rather than continuously for your life paying rent, that is good debt, right? So really, it depends on what you use the money for. So the
problem is not debt; it is what you use it for.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Are there types of debt? Because you mentioned a house versus a business. So in a sense, there is taking money for different things. But even within that, are there different types in terms of length, in terms of what differentiates one debt from another?
I think the use
is the main one.
The use is the main one. Equally, the tenor.
The tenor. What does tenor mean?
So how long you're taking funding for, right?
Okay.
So you have short-term debt, you have long-term debt. So usually when you take money, probably payable, it depends, it varies in definitions, but if you take money that's payable, let's say 12 months, sometimes extended to 24 months, it's short-term debt.
Okay.
If you take money that is longer than that, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, sometimes up to 10 years, those are long-term. Okay. That's long-term debt, right? So it depends on what the use is, and again what the
so you differentiate the debt by its use and then by its tenor.
Yes.
But there's also the interest rate, right?
Interest rates, as long as, okay. So, within a bank perspective, and that's why you probably see my role as debt and working capital. Maybe banks have a way of confusing people a bit. And if you look at the way I define debt, I said as long as you take money from a third party. However, usually when banks say debt, we're looking at the structured long-term or structured debt paid over as installments, right? And then you have working capital facilities. Working capital facilities may have a certain cycle, may have maybe a 3-month cycle, maybe a 6-month cycle, or maybe an overdraft. It's basically structured to follow a certain operational cycle that you have, right? So that, whilst in the technical sense could be considered as debt, if you moved further down, we could separate them and say debt is actually structured over a period of time, whilst working capital is facing a particular trade or operational cycle.
How do you assess people who come to you for a loan?
Right.
Or so if 3 people are sitting in front of you wanting to take a loan,
yes,
I'm sure they may not get the same rate,
yes,
for several reasons.
Yes.
So just help us appreciate what a lender thinks about in assessing a person or an entity,
right,
for credit.
So you will look, let's say you probably look at it, is it 4 ways? Let me use 4 ways. One, what is the borrowing need, or what is the borrowing cost? Right? What is the basis for this person asking for the money? Is the person asking for money because they have a very short-term obligation that they need to meet, right? So they need to pay for clearing, for example, or they just need to pay for school fees, and because their salary is late and it will come back, they will be paid at the end of the month, and you're just needing to bridge a gap. Or the person is building a factory, and he needs money to build a certain significant capex. Or what could potentially, basically, whatever you're using the funding for, the bank is interested to know, because that informs what kind of structure we put together. And whether it's a working capital, there's a debt, whether it's a 5 year, 6 years, 3 years, all of that is a function of what is the money for, right? Then the question again is, can you afford it?
Okay.
Right? So when you say can you afford it, you look at it within the context of what is the cost of the financing that I'm giving to you. And if I put all of that together with your principal, and we look at it over the period that you say you want the loan for, we've agreed we want the loan for, are you able to afford it? Right? That's an area that I will look at. Again,
and to look at that, you probably look at my cash flow. You look at the way my business works, and that kind of thing.
Exactly, exactly the point. Then I would look at what is your credit history.
Okay.
Do you have a history of having taken money and not paying? Right. So generally, you would say these are like key areas that we would look at.
This is the on-air series for the Citi Business Festival. This is our third week, and our focus is on personal finance. Today we're talking about debt. Later on you hear about savings and investment and other nice topics. My guest is Benjamin Asante Asamoah. He's given us a very basic definition, differentiating debt from equity. And he's also differentiated various kinds of debt between what you want it for, the length, and then the interest rate. When we come back, we have a few questions around what he said. Credit history, right? Some people feel like if I have not borrowed before, it means I'm better for a loan, but it may not be the right thing. Sometimes having a credit history may be better. We'll also talk about how do you get out of a difficult debt situation, or how do you negotiate your way out of a debt that's becoming difficult to pay. Don't forget, the On-Air series is brought to you by Channel 1 and Citi FM in partnership with ABSA, and of course it's sponsored by MTN, Petra Trust, and Sondatech. Stay with us.
Looking for power, performance, or pure driving comfort? Looking for strength for your business or style for your lifestyle? Welcome to Zondatech Ghana Ltd, your one-stop automobile shop. From heavy-duty trucks built with global powerhouse Sinotrack to premium SUVs and pickups from Great Wall Motors and Cherry. From light-duty commercial trucks to world-class construction equipment from Shantui and Sunny Group, Zondatech delivers top-most quality brands with affordable luxury. Zondatech gives you power, prestige, and performance all in one place. Strong, reliable, affordable. Zondatech Ghana Ltd. Drive the future. Call Zondatech on 050-177-2222 or 050-177-3333.
Good business means seeing the possibilities and maximizing opportunities. Making sure you have a responsive support system backs your business goals. A partner that gives you a stable platform with reliable connectivity and seamless solutions, and better understands the tools required to take you to the next level. With so many moving parts in running a business, we do our best to provide you with some stability. The only kind of stability you can find with MTN Business Broadband, the fastest and most reliable internet provider in Ghana, making sure you stay ahead and stay connected because we understand what makes your business tick.
Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh or call or WhatsApp 0244 308 111.
MTN.
Welcome back. Today on the On-Air series, we're focused on debt. My guest has a very interesting title. He's head of debt and working capital. He says that doesn't mean he's a debt collector. He just helps to structure and make sure that you get the right credit for your business. You said something about credit history. It's very interesting because in developing countries, a lot of us are not that leveraged in terms of credit history.
Yes.
In advanced countries, people are very well leveraged. In a sense, it's an advantage for them having a credit history, which is a bit counterintuitive. Can you explain why having a credit history may be good in accessing a loan as against somebody who has a clean slate?
Right. So, it's said that every loan you repay today, right, it's in essence an investment into your financial credibility tomorrow. And when I have to give you a loan today, one of the key principles of lending is willingness to pay. And whilst you normally would look at somebody's financials or look at somebody's salary, it is very difficult to tell on paper somebody's intentions or willingness to pay. So when you've looked at somebody who has borrowed over a period of time and have consistently paid, it is your clear evidence that this is a person who when they borrow, as long as all things being equal, will pay. So that's what credit history does. It helps financiers or bankers to tell your history and say that everything put together, this is a guy who always shows an intention to repay.
Which is why they talk about credit referencing bureau.
Yes.
Which is that working, by the way?
Yes.
It's working.
It's working. I wouldn't say it's working 100%. It probably maybe is about 70-80%. Sometimes they are a bit of data integrity issues that come up.
All right. But if I came to you for a loan, you would at least attempt to know my credit history.
I certainly will.
Me. Okay. We've heard about using good credit to pay bad debt. Is that something? Explain how that works. Does that make sense? And I've heard it's not just for individuals, but even for countries.
Yes.
Because I've been told that in some time we went for some concessionary financing to help us pay for some other more expensive something. So just explain how that works and whether it makes sense.
Yes. So it makes sense until the source of the good loan stops.
Okay.
Right? And usually this happens when you probably have gone into a certain debt cycle, unsustainable debt cycle, right? And by virtue of either relations or by virtue of other leverage you have, you're able to get some money to keep that loan running. Now usually as long as your loan keeps running and your repayment is on track, nobody bothers, right? Now to the extent that so that's what happens in the context of using good loans to pay off bad loan. In essence, you continually engage multiple lenders. You get money, you use it to pay off a loan that you are technically cash flow deficient and unable to pay, and then you just borrow from, in local parlance we say borrow from Paul, borrow from
Robbing Peter to pay Paul.
So as long as you keep doing that, it's fine. When the music stops, when one day one lender says, you know what, I think I'm not too comfortable with the flow, I want you to pay me back. At that point in time, your bad loan begins to struggle because you can't pay. Then your good loan begins to struggle because you equally never had the capacity to pay it. And then the whole
So borrowing
thing falls off.
solely to use to pay another debt is not advisable in the long term. It's not sustainable.
It shouldn't be, actually. Sustainably, you should. When you borrow, it means that you have a certain sense of the cash flows facing that debt. So if something goes wrong and that source is blocked and you have to take money from another financing to pay, that's the beginning of a big problem you have.
But there's such a thing as restructuring of debt.
Yes, there is.
What does that mean?
So things don't always pan out the way you expect it to be. So somebody walks into a bank and says, I want a loan for 5 years because I'm going into this business and this is how I anticipate the cash flow would work out. Then you probably are importing petrochemical something, right? And then Donald Trump and Iran begin to say we've blocked Strait of Hormuz.
The oil is stuck.
The oil is stuck. The source of your business is totally shut off. You need to. The point is, how do I ensure that I can repay? So in that circumstance, you walk into your bank, to your bank, and say, you know what, this was the thinking. I never anticipated that the Strait of Hormuz would be blocked. Now I don't have anything to sell. Can we reprofile my debt?
Correct.
Can you gave it to me for 6 months, but I can't tell how far this thing is going to go. So can we look at it and maybe give me a view of a 2-year term or 3-year term? I have some additional, business on the side, which may give me some minimal level of cash flow. I will use it to pay over time whilst this thing gets sorted out. So that's you profiling your debt, right? Again, in that same instance, the bank can say, okay, you know what? I recognize there's a gap. I'll give you a moratorium.
Okay.
So I will take a break on your repayment. I'll give you a moratorium for 6 months. Let's see what happens. So within that 6 months, let's say you can keep paying me interest based on other business interest you have, and then you keep running. Wow. So that's any time the bank will have to go outside the original contract. That's a debt restructuring, and it works best if the client, personal or business, first anticipates the problem, walks to the banker or walks to the financier and says, this is my view of possibly what the challenges I'll be going into, and I need you to meet me, help me to reprofile it.
Which means that when you give somebody a loan, you don't just give them money and leave them. You really work with them.
Yes.
You sort of understand their business, whatever story they are telling. Of course, Strait of Hormuz is a global story,
yes,
but they could have their own personal Strait of Hormuz problem.
You could have. Yes.
So as a good debt officer, you don't just give the money.
No.
You go to the shop, find out where it is.
It's a must.
Go to the port.
It's a must. It's a must. And usually banks would have a view to say, particularly if it's a long-term facility, outside the monitoring, every year, for example, I'll take a pause. I say, you know what? Let me see your numbers. Let me see how your profits are running. Let me see your liquidity. Let me assess whether you are in a good place to keep paying the loan, right? So even structurally, from a banker's perspective, you set periodic moments where you say, you know what, let's review everything and see whether the things are going as we anticipated it from day one.
I think I now understand why banks are very interested in global affairs. You have analysts who look at all these trends, because a lot of times you are just doing money. Why are you discussing geopolitics? But they are important for large-scale transactions, even for small-scale, because you need to know what can affect business.
Yes. Today, Bernard, I would, on a weekly basis, pull up our top 20, 30 clients and assess each of them one by one to understand to what extent is their business being affected by the Middle East crisis. So this is something that not only just listening to the news, but once you are aware that potentially something could affect the client's business, you need to be proactive and then go to the client and say, well, this is what I've seen. Is it affecting you or not?
So whatever story it tells, you already know. You can tell a Kwekwanan's story, you already know.
You anticipate it. You just want him to tell you whether that's it or not.
I need you to clarify something. There's a difference between bank credit, non-banking credit, and then in terms of the tiers, right? So what's the difference? Because a bank can give me 1 million cedis.
Yes.
A savings loan can give me 1 million cedis. A microfinance could give me 1 million cedis.
Yes.
A credit union could give me 1 billion cedis. But it seems as if the nature of the four businesses means that the arrangement will be different.
Yes.
Just explain what differentiates what you give from what the smaller people along the chain give.
Okay. So usually the question is, if you have the best of credit, you would go to a more structured commercial bank if you have the best of credit, because that's where you have possibly the best of terms. The further you move down the chain, the riskier it is assumed your profiling is. Right? So, and usually is the risk profile that determines where you fall along the chain. Of course, there are the very few instances where somebody may be borrowing from a microfinance institution purely because of proximity, not because they can't afford to borrow from a commercial bank, but purely because they are not close to that entity, right? But it's clearly a function of, one, it could be proximity, but more importantly, it's a matter of risk profiling. The smaller the entity is, the further they are from the commercial entity, the commercial bank, then you will find a microfinance institution or a savings and loan institution engaging them, because one, they have a lot more people on ground. They can walk into markets and engage you and follow through on your sales, right? So it's structured such that you have those on the ground who do that. Commercial banks are usually more not exactly on the ground in that manner, right? So they are more maybe office type clients, or at a certain level of SME you can engage. So it's usually, call it a risk profiling issue that determines where you fall along the chain.
If risk is what you use to price credit you give someone, then I can safely say that your rates will be lower than the rates for these guys on the ground.
That's it. And that's why, really, as you go down the chain, you realize that people stop talking about annual interest rate. They start talking about monthly rates. So somebody says, yeah, 5% per month, or 7% per month. But as you move, you realize that you're probably paying like maybe 1.2% a month at a commercial rate. Though we don't really communicate in months, in principle, that's the kind of setup you have.
So if you reduce your risk profile as an entity or individual, you will get better credit from a bank or an institution. Basically, if you reduce how risky you are as an business, you will get a better deal.
100%. 100%.
Final thought from you. How can people get in touch with you? You've been talking nicely about debt management. Maybe some business listening wants to come and engage with the business banking unit or the working capital department.
So Bernard, as long as you walk into any of our branches across the country, you will have access to us. Again, you can always interact with us through our call centers or through our website. We are available every time. We do have, in Accra, we do have a center from an SME standpoint at our Ring Road branch. In Kumasi, we do have another center that looks at clients as SMEs largely at that level. But walk into any branch and you can get across to us.
Have you moved to your new headquarters yet?
Small time. I think we're actually doing that this month. So
I need to come and see the place. Really beautiful place. On the, what's the name of that road? Independence Avenue.
Yes.
Fantastic place. I've been speaking to the head of debt and working capital, business banking, ABSA Bank Ghana Ltd. He's in the person of Benjamin Asante Asamoah. And look, this is like debt management 101. Go and do likewise. That's what the scripture says. Ben, thanks for being on the program.
Thank you, Bernard. It's an honor to be here.
Don't forget, this Citi Business Festival On Air series is on Channel 1 Television and 97.3 Citi FM. And it's in partnership with ABSA Bank. Incidentally, sponsors are, of course, ABSA Bank, MTN, Petra Trust, and Zonda Tech. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.